Um, either Shabojog, Mamuch guy, I think you've heard this story many times, but again, um, different versions. Haichu, like they're all different. They're not going to tell you the same story. And even the storyteller that tells it year to year will change a little bit. The only place you're going to find the sameness is if it's written down, because you can't go back and, change that just much. And you can get a book that has a story in there and read it. But the glory of the Tamhim is that there's many different versions, and that you can go out and listen to other storytellers tell the same story and find different versions of that same story. So this one is connected to the beginning of the time when Joe Demake and Itai, they made some people, and even these people they were much maagi the rules, what the rules are, and then so the people are supposed to follow those rules kasap na haichukat. But being people, and because they have their own free will, their own minds, they go out and they do something, that and so they decide, let's just start over. And so it happens times 3 times in the autumn culture, the autumn Tuakyaga. It happens 3 times, and then after the 3rd time is usually the last. And so this is like the 3rd flood that happens in this story. And what happens is they know that these people are listening to them. Let's just start all over again. And they talk about it for days, weeks, times, whatever. And then they decide, okay, well, let's just end the earth and start all over again. But they have to make a plan, so they make a plan. But it's not like, like Achim, it's just to get a plan, and then you get, the things to happen, because they're supernatural beings, they're spiritual beings. It just kind of makes something that is the end result is there. That's the end of the plan, but how does it get to that? It's just the whole part of the wisdom. And so what happens is that they decide to end the world again, and they decide to end it with the flood. So they said, okay, Masapo, and so they create a man. They make a man. They get the mud, and they make a heart, and they make lungs, and they make a pancreas and all that. This man, and they put they cover him up, and they make a beautiful man. It's this good, all these muscles, the most beautiful, most strongest, most handsomest man they ever made, and they breathe life into him. And then they they have these ceremonies with the go do this, and you're supposed to do that only. Don't think about. And a lot of times, the warriors would go out to, they would tell Saddam to go to a community to deliver a message to the chief in that community. And so they would that there's a ceremony that they put the corn pollen, or either they'll paint the space black, but this they didn't do it. They tell him to do something, and he has to do that. He can't do anything else. So like Hoogie, that hunter or that messenger, if he's running to tell the chief to another village some kind of message, and he's running, and he's a hunter too, and he sees a rabbit, he's not going to kill that rabbit. He sees a deer, he's not going to kill the deer. Hasjak, because he has to do the first priority. He has to go and tell the chief that. He can't do anything else. And that's what Chu'imata is. You go out and you do that thing. You're not going to do anything else. It's just that one thing. And I think that nowadays, this, what do they call it? Multitask, or the thing that they do to do other stuff while you go to town. You can also pick up this and this. But in the olden days, for males especially, you just do that one thing and that's it. And that's why I think males are kind of have a hard time with, if you send them to do something, that's what they're going to do. they're not going to do anything else. But when the woman is with them, and she wants to go over here and do all this stuff, and that's what I think kind of like, we're not here for that, But anyway, so this man was sent out into the world, and what his job was, they told him, go out and go to all the communities and go find all the women, the new women, and you're going to impregnate them, get them pregnant. But what you're going to do is you're going to take your weapons and you're going to take it to the house of the girl that you know that's in there that doesn't have any babies, and you're going to go and sit under the wato, and the man is going to come out, and they're going to come and they can give you some food and something to drink, and then you're here to say, I'm here to sleep with that girl. I'm here to have sexual intercourse with that girl. And after a while, everybody will know what you're going around for. They won't even have to ask you why. But when the girl comes, you give her your weapons. She's going to take your weapons and put them where she sleeps. And when the sun goes down and you're ready to sleep, go in there. And then after you have sexual intercourse with her, and then you leave before they wake up in the morning, before the sun comes up. You leave and you go to the next house, and you do that all. That's your task. And you're going to have all these babies. To all the women in the world are impregnated by you, and they all have a child, and then you can finish. So he said, okay, and he got up and he walked out, and he went to the first community, and that's what he did. He found the house, and he kind of like figured this. He saw a girl walking out and walking that she was probably not pregnant, and so he went over there and sat down under the wato, and sure enough, people saw him sitting there, and then they came and then they told the man, the old man of the family, they told him there's somebody sitting out there, and okay, well, give him something to eat, and they all went and gave him something to eat and gave him some water, and then he came and he had his weapons and he sat down, and then he started talking, and they said, what are you here to do? And he said, well, I came from Mugama eat the Chiwatamaka. They told me to go around and have sexual intercourse with all the women and give babies to them. And the man was thinking, I guess it must be something special. So he called the young girl, the girl that had just become a woman, and she came out and he told her, this guy is here. He's going to sleep with us tonight. He's going to sleep in your bed with you. And so the girl, and so she took his weapons and put it above where she slept at. That's the way Autumn did things a long time ago, is that the man, wherever he slept, his weapons are right there above on the wall, above where he laid down. And so if the enemy attacked, you could just reach up and grab his weapons and go out and fight. So that's why they did that. And so that happened, and then that morning, the girl had a baby, and she woke up, and she was crying because the baby was coming out, and the mom came and they helped her, and then she got the baby, and then they looked around, and the man nowhere to be found. So they took that baby, and then again they pronounced it. The girl the girl's mother took it, and she held it, and they said, "In your moss," and that's my daughter's child. That's how they say the imik. And so, and all the family came around, and they pronounced their imik to that newborn baby. And so the baby, gave him to the mother, and the mother started to breastfeed and to make the baby okay. And then the next day it happened over there. And after a while, the word got around, at the community meeting, the women would go and they would gossip and they would tell the story of this guy that, God, he's good. Oh my God, he's so handsome. But he's there for the young girls. And so he's going to make her pregnant. And then so they kind of knew that was happening. And when it was going to be their turn, and some of the young girls didn't want it, they were afraid. But yet it's something that Itoi had told them. And so there was this man in the community that he had a daughter, and the daughter started crying when she heard that. And so the man went to the daughter and said, "What are you crying about?" And she said, "I'm crying because I don't want to be with that man. When he comes and he makes babies, and I don't want to be with him. I don't want to have his baby." And so the father kind of like, father and daughter connection are real close. And so he said, okay, well, do something and I'll make sure that you don't have his child. He won't sleep with you. And so the girl kind of got okay and she went back to work. And the father's trying to figure out, how do I do that if he ever shows up here? Because he was way in the other communities, but he was going to all the different communities. And he would just show up in a community and then go to another community the next day and to a different person's house that had a daughter. Him. And so he would go and meanwhile, Chiwadamaka and Ita and Bana were there and they were talking and the guy went away and they said, okay, we need to get ready. And Ban was sitting there and he was watching him and then he kind of looked around and he got hungry, Ban got hungry and he took off and he ran out and he started looking for food. He's way over there running around looking for food. And Chiwadamaka and Ita were sitting there. So they were sitting there and then they were saying, how do we survive? And so Chiwadamaka, being the older one, he said, well, I'm going to get this bamboo, and I'm going to make a bamboo raft. And on there, I'm going to put my little house on top of the raft. So when the rain comes, it'll just float up there and they won't drown. I won't drown because they'll be just up there and the rain will fall. And so I'll be up there and it'll just, I'll just float. And then whenever the rain stops and it floats, I'll just be safe, I'll just be in my house. So he started building that bamboo, that raft, and he made a house on top of that raft, and he put a lot of food in there, and he put water in there, and he's saying, this is where I'm going to survive, and so I'm just going to be here. And Montezuma, whatever you call it, he went and he's looking around. He said, I'm going to make a clay pot. So he went and he made this big clay pot, this really big clay pot, and he made it real hard. He baked it real hard, like shrinkers, and it was like iron. He was really hitting it, and it didn't break. So he told Chiwadamaka, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to put food in there and I put water, and I'm just going to sit in here and close the top so the rain won't come in. And then when the rain stops, I can open it and look out and see where I'm at and just be floating down there, floating around because I won't drown in there. And so they decided, okay, whatever happens, then, wherever we're at, if one of us survives, we'll gather together somewhere, we'll meet each other and then we'll start off making new human beings. But we're going to do it when we're all together. So we're not going to make any human beings until we're together. So that's what's their pact. And so they did that and they made it. And meanwhile, the guy's out there and he's doing this, going around, and the same thing, the girl will wake up in the morning and then the guy will be gone, and then she would have a baby, and then the baby, they would, take the baby and pronounce it theirs, and so Bashiwa. And so it was coming time for the guy that to go to that girl's house, the one that didn't want to be with anybody, and even though girls refused him, the parents told him, you have to, because this is Chiwadamaka and Ita, that's what they want, this guy to impregnate all the women. So there was this girl there, and this man, he didn't want his daughter to be impregnated by, because the daughter didn't want it. So that day he started making something, and he got these like those jumping cactus, those real hanam. He made those needles, and he made like a underwear, and he made with all those stickers on there, those short stickers. And so he was waiting, and when the man came, and he said he was there for the girl, and he told the girl, take the weapons and put them over your, where you're supposed to. So the girl took the weapons and put them over where she sleeps at. And then the man had told the girl, when that man comes, you take this and you put it on. You put it on like a pants, you put it on and you leave it on. And then when that man tries to lay with you, he won't be able to get in there. He won't be able to do anything to you. How come? Because there are all those sharp needles. And so the girl did that. And it was dark by the time they came in, and the fire was going. And the old man, and again, in the autumn household, the old people, or the head of the household, sleeps in the west, and all the kids, the boys on the right side, the girls on the left side, or either way, you know. So they would go, and they would sleep, and the older ones towards the door, and the younger ones towards the parents. Kind of like that was the way that they slept a long time ago. And so the girls, her bed is over here, her mattress, her mine, they call it a mine. So the hunter went in there and found the girl, and, or what did I say, hunter? The man, the beautiful man went in there. Good, mm-hmm. We rule. And so he went in there, and the next morning they woke up, and the baby was born. It was crying, and they said, and the parents jumped up and ran over there and saw the girl sitting there. She was surprised, looking at the baby, and the man, the beautiful man, was sitting there, and he was confused, and he was looking around and like, what happened? And they went and they lit up the fire, and the light came in the fire, and they looked at it, and the baby, the girl's mother, she went and she picked up the baby, and she looked at it, and she said, "Your mom's," you know, thinking that that's the girl's baby. And the girl said, "No, don't call her that. Don't call her that. And don't call the baby that." And so the mother said, "Why?" He said, I didn't give birth to that baby." And the father said, "Well, what happened?" He said, "I don't know. He never did anything to me. You know, he tried to, but he couldn't. And then, you know, this morning, this baby was born, but he had the baby. It came out of him. It's not your moss. It doesn't belong to us. It's his." And so the man, the father of the girl, looked at him, that beautiful man, and told him, said, "That's your baby. It doesn't belong to us. You take it and you get out of here and go wherever you're supposed to go." And so the man was confused, and he was sitting there, and the mother picked up, had the baby, and gave it to that man, and told him, you know, go. And so the man got the baby and was looking around, and he, you know, and he just kind of like crawled out, and he walked out of the house, and he started walking, and he left, and he didn't come back. And he's walking, and he remembers Joe DeMaca and Ito had sent him that long before, like months, years before that. It says, so he went, and he was walking towards Joe DeMaca and Ito, and he was thinking, what happened? What happened? This is my baby, but how did I give birth? How did it's not possible. A man cannot have a baby. So only a woman can have a baby. And so he's walking, and he's thinking, Shandon Jew. And so he's walking, and he's thinking that Joe DeMaca and Ito are over there, you know, that they're over there, sitting over there by that one hill, and that one wash bank. And so he's sitting there, and he sits down, and he's kind of thinking, Shandon Jew. So he takes the baby, and he puts it under the sugar. And where it's kind of like it's shady, he kind of hides it under there, and he puts it down. He's looking around, and then he starts walking, and he walks towards Joe DeMaca and Ito. And they're sitting there, and they see him coming, and he sits down, and they're wondering, you know, but they already kind of know something's happened. So the man is sitting there, and he's looking around, and he's saying, Shandon Jew. And so finally Joe DeMaca asked him, Shrapta Jew, Upam Jew, you know, you came back here. And so the man kind of like looked around, and he was puzzled, and he said, there was a baby born. Well, Master Guardian, and he said, but the baby, the girl didn't give birth to the baby, I gave birth. And he said, but I'm a man, I don't know how that can happen. And so he said, Ipuke, you know, that's the autumn culture. You bring the baby to the relatives, and you show the baby to the relatives. So the guy was looking around, and then he's kind of, okay. So he went over there, and he looked for the baby, and he found the baby. And by then, the ground around the baby was wet with the baby's tears. It was wet around there. And so he looked at it, and he saw that, and he was kind of like, what do I say, you know? Church, you know, Shanda, you know. So he was confused, and he was sitting there, and he was kind of ashamed and embarrassed. But he went back to Joe DeMaca and Ito and said, and they're talking, you know, they're talking about this and that and what happened, and how they're going to do this and that, and they're going back and forth telling stories about their journeys and whatever. And he came and sat down, and they were just still talking, and then finally they looked at him, and then Joe DeMarco said, "Where's your baby?" Patapi, and then he said, "Gibuke, bring it." And so he was sitting there and didn't know what to do, and so he went back over there, and he looked again, and by now, the baby, there was like puddles around the baby, that the tears, the puddles had formed around there. And so he was looking at that, and he was thinking that baby's just shedding too many tears, there's too much water coming out. And then at the same time, he's thinking that there's a reason for him to be here. I don't know, but I am really puzzled, and he was just kind of confused. So he just left and went back over there to Joe DeMarco and Ethan. And the same thing, they were talking about stuff, and they were waiting for him to bring the baby, but he came and he didn't have the baby. They didn't talk to him for a while. They were just looking around. They were talking. And then after a while, then they turned around and then asked him again, Patika Marita. Mamat, whatever, it's because it was from his body. So he was standing on, he said, "It's over there, you can go see it." And he said, No, that's not the ultimate. The parents are supposed to bring the baby to the relatives because they had children. So he kind of looked around, and then he went over there. And when he got over there, then he looked around, and by then the waters were flowing. The water was flowing from the baby. There was it wasn't puddles anymore. It was like starting to flow out. And he got confused again, and he went back over there to Joe DeMarco and Ito. And he sat down, and he was, saying, "Shatuchu, and Pati, your baby, where's your baby? Something strange is going on. I don't know. Something strange is happening. The men are not supposed to have a baby, and now this one is here, and I think I had the baby. I don't know, but it was born this morning, and the girl said it came out of me, and I don't know." And so they said, "Well, go get the baby and bring it over here." And so he's kind of like, and he started walking. He started noticing that water was flowing, and it was starting to rise in the area. So he just kept walking and just walking and walking towards the west, and he didn't stop. He just kept walking. And Joe DeMarco and Ethan are sitting over there, and they're kind of waiting, and then they already know what's going to happen. And so all of a sudden they see the water starting to come, starting to flow, like the wash when it runs, the water starts, and then it starts getting wider, and then it starts getting higher. So they're seeing that, and they say, and better get ready to get, because this water's going to rise, and we're going to, if it rains, it's going to be more. And so they started getting ready. They got up, and here comes the coyote, Pan. He's running, he's looking, water. It's true, the water's running everywhere. What are we going to do? And so they told him, you're supposed to be here with us. You're supposed to be with us, and you'd have been prepared. You're not prepared. This water's going to go up, and it's going to drown everything. It's going to drown all the people. You're not ready. I don't know. Maybe you're going to die with them. I don't know. But I'm going to go in this. I'm going to go on my raft since I had a lot of time, and I built it real good, and the house is strong, and I'm going to stay in there, and just going to stay in there. And so the coyote said, "Can I climb in there? I think you have enough room. There's a little bit. I'll just stay right there on the edge. I'm not going to, but I want to survive, I don't want to die." And so the Joe DeMarco said, "There's only enough room for me. I need to walk around, stretch, lay down, use the restroom, all this stuff. I can't take you with me." And so he looked at Ito, and he said, "What are you going to do?" "Oh, I made this big, clay pot. I'm going to go in there, this Oya. And I'm going to be in there, and I'm going to close the top if it rains, and if it doesn't, it's not raining, I'll open it. I'll go look around to see. Can I go in there? No, there's not enough space. There's not enough space, and I'm going to need the whole thing, and I have just enough food for me to last for this whole time." And the coyote ran, and he was hitting the pottery, and he was like, "Please, just let me go. Just do it. I don't want to die. I don't die." And so they took one of the leftover bamboo reeds that Joe DeMarco didn't use, and he capped off one end, and he went and he He blew it, and he told the coyote, "Go hide in there." And the coyote ran and jumped in there, and there was just enough room for him to fit in there. Like, he was sitting there. What am I gonna eat? It's, I don't know. It's up to you. And he closed the top, and he jumped into that pottery. And by then, the water started to go up and up and up. And then Chiwetamake was sitting in his house. He's just sitting in there waiting. And then all of a sudden, he felt that, that lift, and it started to go. And Itai was sitting in his clay pottery, and he was looking around. And then all of a sudden, he felt that. And it went up and it went up. And they were looking, and wondering what's going on. But then they feel it going up, and they started to go. And the coyote's laying on the ground, and he was first, he felt that, and it started to go, and it started to go. And it started to knock him over, hit him, and he's laying, hit him on all these trees, and it's going, and the water's flowing, and hitting him, and he's laying, and he's going, and he's hungry, and he's hitting, and the water starts to whirl around. And so they all go up. And meanwhile, the people are there in the village, and they see the water, and they say, I don't know. And then they started hearing the stories of this man that gave birth, and they're like, that's not right. Not supposed to happen. Only the women can give birth. That's a right that the men don't have that right. They want that right. They need to go ask every single woman in the world, can I have baby? And if they say no, if one of them says no, you can't have that baby. That belongs to them. It's not, it doesn't belong to men. So, and then the people, they I don't know what do you do. So they started running up to the top of the mountains, and some of the mountains, they were small, but the water came and it drowned them. Meanwhile, there was this community that lived way up by Chihuahua, cover walls, a little tall mountain there. And they ran up there, and they climbed way on top of that mountain, and they were way up there, and it was kind of like a flat top, kind of like Comet. And they climbed up there, and they were up there, and they were watching the water, and there was a flat part, and then they say, well, we'll just stay here. And, when the water goes down, then we'll go down. Okay? So they went, and they started playing games. They started cooking food. They were doing all this stuff, just living, not even worried about they're going to drown. And so the chief of the community was sitting there, and he was wondering, what happened? And meanwhile, there was a dog that went up there with them. And the dog went up to the on the mountain with them. And he was running around, and he was wondering, how come these people aren't afraid, that they're going to drown, and they're going to, they think they're going to survive, This is Chiwetamake and Itai. They're powerful medicine, but they're going to drown the world. They're not afraid they're going to die. And he was watching them, and and so the chief was sitting there, and so he was sitting there by the chief, that dog, and he was watching them. And then one of the people came by, and he told him, go see if the water, if the water's going down, if the water's receding. And so that man ran over there to the edge of the mountain, and he looked down, and he saw the water was still rising on the mountain. So he ran back and told the chief, the leader. He said, no, the water is still coming up. And then after a long while, they waited again, and they were sitting again, and then another man passed by, and he told him, said, I'm going to go and check to see if the water went down. So the guy went over there, and he checked and came back and said, no, the water's still rising. It's still coming up. And so they waited a long time again, and they was just, doing stuff and, like not even caring. And so the dog is sitting there watching this stuff, and another man comes by, and then he tells him, go run over there and see if the water went down. So that guy went down, and he said, the water didn't come down yet. But I think that, it's almost to the top where it's gonna reach us. And they just still kept going playing. And the dog, he was looking at the people, and he's kind of like, they don't even know they're gonna die, but maybe I can help them to survive or somehow. And so the dog stood up and went close to the chief, and where people were sitting around him, and they were talking. And the dog said to the chief, I'm going to go check to see if the water's going down yet. And everybody turned to stone. They all turned to stone. Whatever they were doing, they just froze right there. And the water came up. and it drowned the whole mountain. And actually, there are some stories that say that the water came up and it actually picked up the mountain because it kind of like became like an iceberg, and it was floating up, and it was over there by what they call Kyoto on that side, and it came off and it started to float around the world, and eventually it landed over there next to what they call Superstitious Mountain. What is Superstitious Mountain? And it landed over there. And so when the water was receding, it came down and it landed there. That's why there's a connection from that mountain to those mountains over there, Kyoto, or that area. Even the story about the ram and the roadrunner, they ran from the Superstitious Mountain to that area, but they never finished the race again. So that was kind of like strange when you but the water was going up and up and up and up, and the birds are there, and the big birds came and they told all the birds, go fly, there's a hole right in the middle right there, go fly out of that hole and go on top of the clouds and way up there, and you'll survive. So the birds started flying up there, but there were some that were like trying to get out of there, but they couldn't, they weren't fast enough. And so they were, the water caught them, and the hole was was closed up, and so the water caught them and it was going wet, and they were going. And I know there's different stories about different birds, but the ones that are generally the same are the Black Phoebe Gisia, the roadrunner, and the hummingbird, and the red-tailed hawk. That they say that must be, they couldn't reach the hole, and so the water was going to drown them, and it was going all the way up. And here's the dome sky, and the birds are up there, and then they hang up, they reach out with their beaks, and they hang up on the sky right there. And so they're hanging up on the sky, and the water comes up, and their feathers are poking down like that, and the water comes up and it goes right there to the edge of their feathers, and they're crying, and and the big birds are saying, and the hummingbird is up there, and he's crying, and he's hanging up there, just the feathers are, and he said, and they said to the hummingbird, you're a small bird, but you have a strong spirit. Said, you have the power over the water. Said, sing your songs, because you can fly over this water, and you don't need to be hanging on there. And you sing your songs, and the water will listen to you. And so the hummingbird started to sing the songs, the water, and the water started to recede, and it went down and down and down and down and down. And they're hanging up there. And that's why when you look at their feathers, those birds, any of those desert birds, which again are mentioned in the story, the tail end of their feathers is kind of like a different color, like a line, like the shoaga, the roadrunner. Tate. The feathers are down, but at the end there's like a white stripe, and those are those birds that they say that were the ones that were caught. And when the hummingbird started to sing the song, it receded, but the water almost drowned them. It just came up to their tail end of their feathers, and it started to go down. And the water started to recede, and Geotamake, Anita, and the coyote are all going around, and they're going all around. And they're they're just floating all over the earth, and so the water starts to recede, and they're going, and they're sitting there, and then they're waiting for the water to to stop. When the motion stops, then they'll know that they've hit the ground. And so they're sitting there, and then they're waiting, and then Coyote falls asleep because he's so hungry, and he just falls asleep, and he's laying in that bamboo reed, and he's laying there, and all of a sudden, over there at Chiwadamake, he feels that it stops, stops, and he looks thinking, is it really, Natug, or is it just like whatever? So he opens the door to his house, or he opens the thing, and he looks out, and he sees that the water is still there, but right there where he landed, it was a little bit above, like a little bit of a mound of dirt. So he gets out, and when he steps off of his raft, the water comes up to his his chest area. The water comes up there, and he's in there, and he's looking around, and so he climbs back on his raft, and he's waiting there. And then Iitoi is in his pot, and he feels the pot stop, and then he's sitting, and he's thinking, what if the water went down, or is it still there? So he decides to wait a little bit of, a few more, a bit of time. So he waits for some time, and he comes out of out of his pottery, and he looks around, and he sees the water is still there. And when he steps into the water goes up to his thighs. So it's up to his thighs, and he's walking around in there, and he's figuring, well, a little more time. And so he gets back into this pottery, and he starts to eat, starts to sleep, whatever. And then the coyote, he's asleep. And so he wakes up, and he feels like it's not moving around anymore. And it was a long time. And so he looks around, and he's thinking, I wonder if the water's... So he pops that part on the edge, he kicks it out. And he comes out, and when he steps in the water, it's just to his feet. Just the bottom of his feet where his ankles are. That's how how high the water was. So he starts running around the earth, just looking for food, just running around this. And Jiwatmaka and Iitoi are get out too, and they start walking around, and they're thinking, I wonder what happened to those others. Jiwatmaka, Iitoi, Coyote are wondering about each other, and they're walking around, looking around, and they're for years and years, they're walking around, looking at all the plants and stuff that's growing, and they're getting food, and they're eating it, and they're walking around, surviving themselves, and they get to this part where one of them, I think it's different stories say different things, but Jiwatmaka is walking, and he sees these prints, and he looks at it, and he steps beside him. He knows they're not his footprints. They're somebody else's footprints. So he knows somebody else is alive in the earth besides him. And so he starts walking, looking for this person. And meanwhile, over on the other side, Iitoi is walking around, and he sees these footprints, and he's looking around. He's thinking, these are not my footprints. And he puts his footprint beside him, and he says, yep, they're not mine. Somebody else is here, and they're looking around for each other, somebody here. And then, so the coyote's walking way over there, and he sees both of those footprints, and he says, oh, there's other people here. I wonder who it is, a man, a woman, what it is. And he puts his footprints beside theirs, and he starts running around. And they also start finding Jiwatmaka start finding the coyote's footprints around. So they know that he's still around. And so he says, and they start walking, and then towards the center of the earth, they're walking because they figure that they'll if they go there, maybe other people are there. So they go towards the center of the dome sky and on the earth. And then Iitoi finds like a little hill, and he gets up there, and he goes, roll out, and he's listening. No sound. And he keeps walking towards the center there. And the Jiwatmaka is way on that side, and he's walking, and he goes to this little rock, and he gets on top of that, and he's looking around. He don't see nobody. He's like, he yells real loud, and I don't want to do it because it might break your, eardrum. So he starts yelling, but he don't hear no sound, and they keep walking closer and closer. And meanwhile, the coyote's running, and he's looking, and he looks, and he hears the yell, somebody yelling way over there, and then, wonder who that is. And then he hears somebody yelling way over there, and he's like, wonder who that is. So he gets to the center of the earth, and he starts to, and the Iitoi and Jiwatmaka hear that, and they're like, there's somebody over there, and they start walking, and then they all meet right there at the center of the earth, and they look at each other, and they're like, yeah, right, oh, so you're made it, how, yeah. And the coyote's there too, and they had made a pact that whoever's going to be the boss, the elder brother, they call it su'a, whoever's going to be the su'a in the world now, from now on, but it's a new world, that is going to be the first one to step in the water when they come out of the flood. And so the coyote said, I was the first here. I was the first one, so I am the su'a. And they prove it. And the coyote looked around, and then just, I was just, And so Iitoi said, look at your feet. That white on your feet, that's how high the water is when you stepped in it, and that's that foam. So you didn't come out. See, look at me, and he said, and right there's the line on his thighs. He said, see, I came out of the water and stepped in the water before you did because I can prove it because it's on my thighs. The foam is on my thighs. So I am so. And Joe Damaka is standing there. He don't say nothing, and he just kind of stands up real tall, and he looks up, and they see the foam right here on his chest, and they don't say nothing because there was no announcement. We called Itoy the even though Joe Damaka was the first one out. So that's just all Tamhimdan. That's just the way it happens. So the Itoy attains the title of elder brother, even though Joe Damaka came first. So anyway, that's just those stories about that. And again, there's different ways tell the stories different. There's sanitized versions. There's versions that are, don't mention certain things. There are versions that mention other stuff. And yeah, that's this story either. And you can share it with whomever. Again, just to give, regarding the dog spoke. I know that everybody talks about that part about where the dog spoke, but it doesn't mention how, like the before and the after parts. A lot of the people don't know this story about the man that was making all the women pregnant. But there's things in there in that Hawk Yaga that tell about why we do the stuff that we do, like hanging the weapons, that kind of a thing, or sitting under the wato. We didn't have no doors to knock on a long time ago. So people would just show up at somebody's house and sit under the wato, and then they will get recognized because we had no doors to knock on. So stuff like that I think that hopefully you're listening enough to pick up those things that Autumn do, and the coyote story about his reaction and his action. Just something that Autumn say.